How can we use artificial intelligence, a technology that is revolutionizing the production of knowledge, to actually improve lives?
We stand at a crossroads where technology, particularly AI, can serve as a beacon of hope.
AI is transformative. It's got great opportunities, but it also has great risks.
We are all aware that AI is permeating many aspects of our lives, and therefore it can be linked and should be linked to SDGs.
AI will fundamentally change, fundamentally alter, I think, almost every aspect of our lives.
AI has an enormous potential to help us overcome the trade-offs and create synergies among multiple goals.
And our vision is crystal clear: AI for all.
Most AI startups are still headed by men, while female voices animate most virtual personal assistants. This does reflect a gender bias. We have to change that.
We need to think infrastructure, we need to think governance, and we need to think about partnerships. Private sector alone, governments alone, are not going to be able to do it. We need to bring them together.
I wanted to bring a quote from a robot, Sophia, and she said the greatest benefit of AI would be to unify all of us in our march to the realization of all SDGs.
We want to see women in the design phase. We need more women and more diversity and more young people who are committed to the SDGs to shape that new world.
And I'm committed to working through this institution and other international bodies and directly with leaders around the world, including our competitors, to ensure we harness the power of artificial intelligence for good while protecting our citizens from its most profound risk. I'm about to sign an executive order that is the most significant action any government anywhere in the world has ever taken on AI safety, security, and trust.
All leaders, from government, civil society, and the private sector, have a moral, ethical, and societal duty to make sure that AI is adopted and advanced in a way that protects the public from potential harm.
Today, all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly have spoken in one voice and together chosen to govern artificial intelligence rather than let it govern us.
Our advantage comes not just from our domestic strength. It comes from our solidarity with the majority of the world that shares our vision for a vibrant, open, and secure technological future, and from an unmatched network of allies and partners with whom we can work in common cause to pass the tech test. We're committed not to digital sovereignty, but digital solidarity.
And now, I'm pleased to introduce the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Antony Blinken.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. And first of all, to those of you who are just starting like I am on High Level Week here at the United Nations in New York, take it from a veteran and also a native New Yorker. 3 simple words of advice. Take the subway. Last year, we gathered on the margins of the General Assembly to discuss the future promise of artificial intelligence to advance sustainable development. And of the many events I did last year, this is one of the events that really stuck with me because I could feel the energy, the palpable enthusiasm, the belief that AI can be such a force multiplier in actually moving forward on sustainable development goals. This year, that future promise is increasingly a present-day possibility. But if we're going to realize the full potential of AI to improve the lives of people around the world, that requires accelerating our efforts to ensure that this technology is genuinely inclusive. And that's what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about today. Inclusive means that more people can access, understand, and develop AI to help solve the problems that they actually face in their lives. It means that AI technology benefits from and helps preserve cultural and linguistic diversity. It means that civil society, the private sector, governments, multilateral organizations, all have a voice in shaping the governance and applications of this technology. It means that AI reduces, rather than exacerbates, the enduring inequities within and between our countries. Around the world, we are seeing remarkable innovations in harnessing AI to actually expand opportunity. Just to cite a few examples, in Brazil, AI chatbots are providing personalized tutoring to students with disabilities, expanding access to quality education for them. In Indonesia, AI is helping manage and optimize renewable energy grids, bringing clean, affordable energy to more communities. In India, farmers are using AI-driven apps to adapt to changing climate conditions, improving livelihoods, feeding more people. The focus of this gathering, what brings us all together today, is what can we do to give more people in more places the power to unleash opportunities like these. We know that we have our work cut out for us because, as we know, this revolution, this AI revolution, is leaving people behind simply due to a lack of access or a lack of capacity. And those are really the challenges before us and the challenges that we're focused on today. Now, this is a disparity that hurts all of us, and here's why. The more inclusive AI is, the more effective it can actually be in tackling the challenges that are affecting people everywhere, including here in the United States, including in many other countries around the world. Challenges like rising temperatures, deadly viruses, things that don't stop at borders and demand that we find partners and solutions in every part of the globe. Challenges like food insecurity that can lead to conflict and mass migrations. Making this technology more inclusive, it's not an act of generosity. It's in our national interest and in the interests of our firms, of our entrepreneurs, of our investors. The foundation for making AI more inclusive is governance. The international rules, the international norms that help promote safe, secure, and trustworthy AI systems. Now, just over the past year, the United States and our partners have made remarkable progress in building AI frameworks that promote innovation and more equitable access, while at the same time protecting human rights and safety, working with a wide range of partners in every region. Our administration worked with leading AI companies on a set of voluntary commitments, like carrying out security tests before they release new products, developing tools to help users recognize AI-generated content. The U.S. teamed up with our G7 partners to set out guiding principles and a code of conduct to address the impact of advanced AI systems on our societies and on our communities. And we carried this work forward at summits in the United Kingdom and then in Korea. We put these principles at the heart of a UN General Assembly resolution on AI that the United States developed. In March, every UN member adopted it by consensus. And in November, the United States will host an international gathering of AI safety institutes and experts to deepen the technical foundations for implementing these governance frameworks. In the conversations that I've had the opportunity to have around the world, with government colleagues, with entrepreneurs, with advocates, with students, what I've heard is, again, this tremendous sense of optimism about the promise of AI to help tackle the problems that they're facing, to actually improve lives in tangible ways. And at least in my own experience, I say that optimism, that enthusiasm, is even more widely shared in the so-called global majority countries. So today, one of the things our government is doing is putting out new resources to help our partners advance the effort to use AI in ways that actually improve lives. a playbook that identifies key actions that the United States and our development partners can take to harness AI to advance sustainable development. An agenda that sets out the principles, the priorities, the practices of advancing AI research with our international partners. These resources add to the risk management tool that we shared back in July, which will help organizations develop and use AI in a way that respects human rights. Today, we're also announcing a groundbreaking new public-private partnership with leading AI companies to help expand access and capacity in the places and communities where it's needed most, especially in developing countries. The State Department will partner with Amazon, with Anthropic, with Google, with IBM, with Meta, with Microsoft, with NVIDIA, with OpenAI to expand access to AI. The Partnership for Global Inclusivity on AI will work to close the gap in 3 crucial areas: compute, capacity, context. The 3 C's of advancing equity through artificial intelligence. First, on compute. We're going to expand access to cutting-edge AI models, compute credits, and more open-source tools. This means that developers, researchers, innovators in low and middle-income countries will be able to use models and tools that can improve their own AI applications and better tailor them to local needs and local challenges. Second, capacity. We will accelerate training efforts to empower people to use and adapt AI tools. Here again, just about everywhere I go, the desire to have a transfer of knowledge to enable countries to genuinely build capacity is one of the things I hear the most. I think this focus on capacity building will really answer needs that we hear around the world. Finally, context. We'll work with governments, with businesses, with civil society organizations, with communities to create localized, context-specific data sets, including for indigenous cultures and languages. To catalyze this partnership, I'm also announcing today that the Department of State and USAID will spend $33 million in U.S. foreign assistance on AI development, with $10 million specifically focused on expanding access. We'll work with Congress to provide $23 million for programs to build on our efforts to develop safe, reliable, trustworthy AI governance frameworks, use AI to advance human rights and development priorities, and promote educational and cultural exchanges on AI-related topics. Together, we and our private sector partners are committing over $100 million to this effort. Now, I'm eager to hand it over to those partners in just a minute, but before I do that, let me remind us of one more reason that this effort is so important. It increases our odds of creating world-changing applications. AI's lightning evolution is, of course, being powered by rapid advances in data and chips and computing and algorithms. But many of its greatest leaps forward are being driven not by machines, but by us, human beings, our needs, our hopes, our creativity, our ingenuity. To get the most out of this transformative technology, we have to give more people in more places the chance to adapt it and to use it for good. None of us, no country, no community, no particular people have a monopoly on good ideas, on innovation, on problem solving. And one of the things that I've learned from being in this business for more than 32 years is that for virtually every problem the world faces, I'm convinced that somewhere, someone has at least the beginnings of an answer. But we have to find ways to share it, and we have to find ways to empower more people to find it. The more we unleash human creativity, human ingenuity in every part of this planet, the better off all of us are going to be. And you can just feel palpably how AI can be at the very heart of this endeavor. So I'm so grateful to all of our partners in today's effort, for me, for the government, particularly working with the private sector. Having these public-private partnerships really is part of the secret sauce of success. And to each of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so, to everyone here, please join me in welcoming to the stage our teammates in the Partnership for Global Inclusivity on AI, with thanks to them and thanks to all of you. Thank you.
we welcome to the stage from OpenAI, Sam Altman, from Microsoft, Brad Smith, from IBM, Gary Cohn, from Amazon, David Zapolsky, from Google, James Minicki, from Meta, Joel Pinot, from NVIDIA, Ned Finkel, from Anthropic, Sarah Heck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Blinken, and to all of you. My name is Sam Altman, and I'm the CEO of OpenAI. It's an honor to join you, representatives from the U.S. Department of State, and other tech companies as we formally launch the new Partnership for Global Inclusivity on AI. This program is an important part of our shared goal of expanding access to AI around the world and ensuring that its benefits reach everyone, regardless of where people live or what language they speak. It's easy to think about AI in terms of the technological leaps themselves, which is advancing very quickly, and every day we can do new things that we would have thought impossible not that long ago. But the real power of AI doesn't come from the systems itself or the technology in the abstract. It comes from people around the world finding new ways to use the technology to solve hard problems and address the challenges facing their communities. We want to make it easier for more people to use AI to enhance the work they're doing to support those communities. We're committed to making this partnership a success, and that's why I'm excited to announce that we're launching the OpenAI Academy, a new initiative which will give developers and organizations in low and middle income countries access to our latest tools and training about how to use them. It's an investment in the future of this technology and those finding new ways to use it. I can't wait to see what comes next, and thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Brad Smith, the Vice Chair and President of Microsoft. Thank you, Secretary Blinken, for this important initiative. I think it's worth remembering that 142 years ago, just 4 years after Thomas Edison first harnessed the power of electricity, the first power plant started operating here in Lower Manhattan. It lit up a dark night. Tonight, more than 14 decades later, there are still 700 million people and 43% of the people in Africa who will go to bed without access to electricity. This is an initiative to ensure that we do better. And as part of this initiative, Microsoft this year and next, in 2024 and 2025, commits we will spend more than $12 billion to build out AI data centers in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, and Africa. We will provide more than $500 million of free access to digital technology and compute to more than 30,000 nonprofits across the global South. We will invest in local skilling. We will enable groups to work with local language AI models. We will help advance local economic development. We are one piece of the American private sector working together with our government to advance global standards for safety, security, and trust. We have the opportunity to do something that Thomas Edison never dreamed of doing. To bring AI to everyone in the world, not in the next 150 years, but in the decade ahead. It will take all of us to do it. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Gary Cohn, Vice Chairman of IBM. First of all, I thought there'd be a bot that would cut us off after 60 seconds, but I guess the AI is not working as well here. Thank you, Secretary Blinken, and your entire team for your leadership in the public-private partnerships and your commitments to promote AI innovation. IBM has been involved in AI for decades and strongly believes that AI is a transformational technology of our time. The world needs innovation, training, and access to technology to create productivity and growth. IBM has continuously committed to help vulnerable populations address environmental challenges. IBM has extended the IBM Sustainability Accelerator pledge of providing up to $45 million in expertise and technology, such as AI, by the end of 2028. We work with organizations such as NASA and UNDP to develop valuable data sets to make them more accessible, including the developing countries, for earth sciences research and energy equity. IBM provides AI training and access to technology to create a world driven by AI solutions.
There is a real impact on real people's lives when we deploy AI technology responsibly. And Amazon is proud to partner with the US State Department to increase access to AI technology throughout the global majority. An example of this type of real-world impact is in Kenya that we've seen, which has one of the largest, highest maternal mortality rates. A nonprofit organization, Jacaranda Health, has used AI tools to deploy an affordable and scalable solution through free text exchanges to improve health outcomes. The service includes an AI-enabled help desk, which responds to mothers' questions and sparks a rapid referral chain if a risk is identified. Jacaranda Health now reaches 1.5 million mothers who are more likely to attend prenatal care visits and twice as likely to participate in family planning services. And later today, you'll hear about FarmBite, a digital agro-food innovator in Malaysia who is using AWS AI technology, predictive analytics, to improve crop selection and pricing. These are just some of the critical impacts and innovations that we are seeing, and I look forward to seeing what more we can do together. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, distinguished guests, I've had the pleasure and the honor of co-chairing the UN's high-level body on AI, and we're delighted that, in fact, our recommendations were part of the Global Digital Compact. One of the key insights from that work was the idea that, in fact, we have to make sure that AI benefits everyone, everywhere, and that we have to make sure that the digital divide doesn't also become the AI divide. And that's why it's really, really important that we're having this conversation. I'm a child of the Global South, so this matters to me personally and very deeply. At Google, we're committed to try to make this a reality in several ways. Let me mention 5 key specific examples. First, infrastructure. We're building data centers in about 140 cloud regions around the world. We've been connecting with fiber optic cables, Africa with Asia, Africa with Europe, Africa with itself, in order to bring infrastructure to these places. Second, the Secretary mentioned the importance of rich diversity of cultural and linguistic diversity. In just over a year, we've gone from Google Translate being able to handle 30-something languages to now 246 languages. In fact, we're aiming to get to 1,000 languages pretty soon. Third, most of the Global South is being ravaged by the effects of climate change, so it's going to be quite important to be able to respond to this. We've been deploying AI-enabled tools for flood forecasting. We went from about 1 country, Bangladesh, about a year ago, to now we're doing AI-enabled flood forecasts in over 80 countries, covering nearly 500 million people around the world. Fourth, I think it's important to keep in mind that scientific development happens not just in some countries, but should happen in all countries. So our work, for example, with our AlphaFold program, our AlphaFold program is now being used by over 2 million scientists, most of those actually in 190 countries, half of them in the Global South. That's very, very important. And then finally, people. Let me talk about people. We've been investing a lot in training and giving skills to people. So far, we've covered over 100 million people in the last few years, and just the other day, we announced a further commitment to spend another 120 million in skills development. These are some of the capabilities that are going to be important if we're going to address these capacity gaps at scale and get to everybody. So we're delighted about this opportunity and the further commitments we're making to continue this journey. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a little over a year since Meta signed on to the voluntary commitments from the White House. Today, we are proud to sign on to this new agreement, public-private partnership to help enable deployment of AI to accelerate progress on sustainable development goals. At Meta, we do believe that open source is crucial for democratizing access to the technology, for spurring economic growth, and for the digital inclusion of the Global South, as well as for increasing transparency and trust in AI systems. In 2024-2025, Meta will invest over $10 million in programmatic support for open source AI innovation. With this investment, we will directly increase access to AI to global communities in Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. We will offer grants, training, as well as deployment of open source AI and Llama to small businesses and governments. We are also announcing later today a collaboration between UNESCO, Hugging Face, and Meta to leverage our No Language Left Behind model to deliver translation in 200 languages, including indigenous languages. This is in addition to the billions we are investing in training the models and developing them to make sure that they're safe, open, and accessible. We're grateful for this partnership. We know that this is just the beginning of how we can deploy AI to solve some of society's greatest challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for the opportunity to be here. NVIDIA pioneered accelerated computing to tackle challenges no one else can solve. We empower communities around the world to build and grow local AI ecosystems and develop innovative solutions to some of society's greatest challenges. Under this partnership, NVIDIA is committing $10 million a year in free training programs to upskill AI developers in emerging countries. NVIDIA provides compute credits and hardware grants for higher education research universities around the world. Through NVIDIA's Global Inception program, we support nearly 5,000 startups in developing countries through technical support, access to capital, hardware discounts, and free computing credits provided through our cloud partners, many of whom are here today. In 2024 alone, this program mobilized more than $60 million in free compute credits for startups in developing countries. NVIDIA is committed to ensuring the benefits of safe, trustworthy AI are accessible and shared by all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have this distinction of being the final speaker, which you're probably very pleased about. My name is Sarah Heck, and I represent Anthropic, and we are so pleased to be a part of this partnership today. I'm actually going to use my time as a call to action. We are an AI lab that tries to be both helpful and harmless. And the call to action today is for all of those people sitting in governments in the global south, in the global majority, that are thinking about how they can use AI. This partnership is for you. Our contribution to this partnership is to ensure teams across governments can help accelerate the global development goals. To make sure whether you're a team of 2 people sitting in Uganda or you're a huge team that wants API access to models that is sitting somewhere in Bosnia, we are here to help you today. So my hope is that if you're watching online or you're sitting in the audience, you're thinking about how are you using AI in your work to build trust, to be helpful and harmless to your citizens, and how we can work together. Thanks so much.
Hello, we have one more panel, so please stay seated as we prepare for our next panel. now pleased to introduce you to the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States of America, Kurt Campbell, who will moderate a panel discussion on taking the next steps together on AI for the Sustainable Development Goals. The panelists are Secretary General Doreen Bogdan Martin of the International Telecommunication Union, Director of the United Nations Development Program, Achim Steiner, Nigeria's Minister of Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy, Bosen Tijani, Singapore's Minister for Digital Development and Information, Josephine Teo Lehman, Colombia's Minister of Information and Communications Technologies, Mauricio Lizano. Thank you.
So good afternoon, friends. We're going to dispense with introductions since you see who we are behind us. We've just heard a really remarkable set of commitments and comments on the promise and prospects of AI in the Global South. And I will tell you, as someone who's worked on both sides in the private and public sector, these kinds of partnerships are extraordinarily difficult to put together, but it holds enormous prospect going forward. What you see before you is a diverse group of people that bring different perspectives about the promise, the challenges of AI. And so when we talk about AI in the Global South, this is not a monolithic issue. This is an issue that has regional concerns and opportunities, also poses challenges and opportunities to institutions. So I'm going to ask each of them to just give a few remarks about what we've just heard. What does it lead them to think about in terms of what's possible going forward? I'm going to turn to you first, since you have so much experience in this arena. Please, Doreen.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me say I was super excited by these announcements. I think as we heard yesterday with the Pact of the Future being adopted, the Global Digital Compact, we have to focus on action, on implementation, and clearly the speakers prior did that, and so I'm quite excited to help take this forward. The Secretary mentioned 3 C's, and he's a New Yorker. I'm a New Jerseyan. I also have 3 C's, almost the same. I think we need to focus on connectivity. We need to be focused on computing, and we also need to be focused on capacity development. As James mentioned before, and the GDC expressed this well, we still have 2.6 billion people that have never been connected. And so if we don't connect those 2.6 billion, we're going to naturally have a big divide when it comes to AI. So we have to close that divide, which also includes, by the way, a gender divide. And we kind of see it a little bit in this room. So we have to also focus on that. The second piece is the compute piece. As the Secretary mentioned, we need to make sure that there's a better distribution of computing resources. I would say within that, there's also a data gap. Getting access to data, available data, quality data is also critical. And then, of course, the third piece is the capacity piece, the capacity development, the skill building, and that's very much where ITU is focusing much of its attention, and I hope I can come back and say more about that.
Great. We hope to get a little bit into skill building. Mauricio, can we hear the perspective from Colombia? Lots of interesting ideas and possibilities, but huge challenges as well, including some issues with respect to energy and infrastructure. How are you seeing this going forward, please?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here, and the words that you just said, the Secretary of State. I think we are very much aligned with what he said, and also we host a ministerial gathering in Colombia. 22 ministers from Latin America went to Cartagena, and we made a declaration. In Colombia, we have this, like 4 strategies and 4 enablers. The first strategy is research, and we need a lot of help on that. The second is developing models, especially in sustainability, protecting the Amazon jungle, healthcare, education, and traveling, encourage the tourism to go to Colombia. And so we are developing these fundamentals models. The third thing is we are working on using the AI responsibly, ethically, to everyone. And the fourth strategy is to educate people. We call democratization, AI for everyone. We are educating 1 million people in Colombia nowadays. And in terms of enablers, is almost what the secretary said. We would like to work in infrastructure. We have to increase our computer capacities, GPUs, supercomputing, and in this strategy is just align what we really need in America Latina. I can't just say not just in Colombia. The second is data. We just passed a law to organize all the data of the government is producing now. We also need to work in data. The third strategy in terms of the third enabler is financing. We need funds, of course. We need more money to develop these capacities, and that's also so we can work together with United States and all the countries that are willing to invest. In Colombia, we're working with Microsoft, we're working with Google, we're working with Amazon, OpenAI, all of them. And the fourth part is diplomacy. We have to work together as a globe, as a world. We cannot tackle these problems alone. We need to be together in this, so we cannot leave anyone behind. And AI is for everyone, especially because it's a huge opportunity to developing countries and to Latin America. So thank you for the invitation.
Great. Achim, in your role as UNDP, this is the game day week for you. So many people coming in to work on your initiatives and your issues, but extraordinarily challenging. Probably one of the most challenging times in our history. How do you see AI, particularly as it intersects with the issues that you are traditionally working on?
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you very much. I want to begin where Secretary Blinken left off. I think what we see with AI, with digital, with this technology frontier, is one of the few things perhaps that can give us all, everyone around the world, a sense of hope. There is an age of possibility opening up right now that is extraordinary, and you just saw the CEOs of a number of leading companies in the world pledging to this idea that we need to develop this capacity for everyone everywhere. And I think for me, who leads in the UN next to ITU, the organization that essentially has capacity building, governance, institution building as its bread and butter in 170 countries, this is a transformative frontier for development. And I think in the way that we can talk about either safety, inclusion, the security of systems, even from those who look at cybercrime and cybersecurity today, the weakest link in a global ecosystem of digital and AI technology being deployed will be the country that has no institutions, no capacity, no means to actually make sure that those who would abuse these systems would have the opportunity to do so. But perhaps the greatest benefit is to help governments frame the kind of governance systems where inclusion becomes a driving criteria for this technology. Because anybody left behind, to Mauricio's point, will never catch up in this century. And that remains our focus, together with the ITU and many of the partners that we work with, to bring this idea of an extraordinary opportunity to the development arena. Thank you.
So we hear a lot of not being the worries about being left behind, but also the idea of leaping forward, leaping across generations to play a dominant role. Josephine, we're thrilled to have you here, my good friend. You all know that Singapore was the leader, the first to establish a digital ministry, has been very focused on this. What's the perspective from Southeast Asia and from Singapore? Tell us a little bit about how you respond to what you've just heard as well.
Thank you very much, Kurt. And also thank you to the Department of State for inviting Singapore to be part of this conversation. May I just say that this idea of a partnership for global inclusivity for AI is a very timely initiative. And I also like very much that you're sharply focused on the 3 C's of context, capacity, and also, first of all, compute. I thought that perhaps for today's conversation, I could just share a little bit about what's happened in Singapore as a way of reflecting the possibilities for Southeast Asia. As many of you know, when you think about building up compute capacity, the Secretary had talked about the importance of infrastructure. We've seen in recent years very strong and active investments from US companies. I think the order of magnitude is not surprising to everyone in this room. In the next couple of years, already just for digital infrastructure and services. A lot of it will be AI related. We're talking about 50 billion Singapore dollars. And this is building on top of $100 billion of investments in tax expenditure in the last 5 years. So when we talk about building up capacity, building up the connectivity infrastructure as well as what is available for compute, this is exactly what's happening. The signal of support that US companies have indicated for these kinds of investments in Southeast Asia is definitely not lost. It is certainly being recognized. But I think it goes beyond that. US companies are also playing a very significant part in building up capabilities. You take, for example, when we first started on our AI journey, particularly in response to the advent of generative AI, it was Google that stepped forward to create an experiment to try and get 100 use cases up and running in 100 days. Now, this has generated a very positive momentum, and then building on that, we've got companies like Microsoft and Oracle seeking to train many more thousands of people in the ability to use their tools, such as Copilot. What's very interesting is that there are more creative ideas. With AWS, for example, they are partnering with our Maritime Port Authority, as well as our Port of Singapore Authority, PSA International, to create a platform. And this platform will allow other players in the maritime sector to also tap into the potential of AI. But what excites me particularly is also what we are doing with Meta. The Secretary had talked about the cultural diversity and how to preserve it in this era. So we know that a lot of the large language models, they are built on data sets that are very Western-centric. But if you think about the fact that in Southeast Asia, there are 1,200 languages. Now, how to reflect this cultural diversity, even in large language models, is an interesting question. What we've done in Singapore is to build a model, not a very big one, but this can work in partnership. This can be a complement to other models, such as open source models like Llama 3.1. I just want to say that it's not only in capacity building. I think also in AI governance, we have something going that we believe is potentially very helpful and impactful. Between the US NIST and Singapore's Infocom Media Development Authority, we have already done a crosswalk of our risk management framework. I was talking to Doreen earlier that because of ITU's experience with standardization, we should certainly find a way to ensure that these risk management frameworks to deal with AI safety are able to be interoperable. Otherwise, it's very difficult for companies to be able to manage all of the different requirements. Now, finally, let me just say that this experience that the Singapore ecosystem has with the US is being put to good use. As many of you also know, Singapore is the convener of the Forum of Small States, which has 108 members, more than half of the United Nations membership. And together with Rwanda, we have introduced an AI playbook for small states because we know how hard is it to get started. So I think these are very good foundations, and we certainly look forward to working with partners on this panel, as well as other partners in the room, to try and bring AI as a reality that benefits even more societies.
Thanks, Josephine. I did want to commend you on this work that you're trying to do with smaller states. They all feel a little anxious. Helping them with a playbook about how they make their way forward is very powerful and important. Bosun, you've been very patient. I do want to just give you guys a sense. If you want to be inspired and you want to meet a group of people that are incredible, Bosun, when I visited Nigeria a couple of months back, he put together a group of entrepreneurs across Nigeria, the most exciting, dynamic group of people I think I've met in a long time. Bosun, we're thrilled that you're with us here today. Please react to what you've heard and a little bit about how you see Nigeria's path going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kamba. Good afternoon, distinguished participant guests. I think we all need to celebrate that we're alive today because I'm extremely excited by the fact that I'm a leader at a time when Africa has the opportunity to be able to address 3 significant, long-standing issues. If you follow our continent, you know that historically we focused a lot on finding ways to optimize how we use our resources. This is a long-standing challenge for us. The second one is raising the level of productivity across our key sectors. I say that in my country, at least I can speak for Nigeria, that there's absolutely no sector that at the minute is performing probably half what it should be. And the third one is diversification of our economy. This is also something that we've been working on for years, government after government. And if you don't know why this is even important at a time like this, we are a very youthful population continent. In Nigeria alone, 60% of our 230 million people are under the age of 25, which means we have a unique opportunity to actually help the world power the future. Because what we're building with artificial intelligence is actually the future of humanity. And there's absolutely no way we can build our future when it's not inclusive, particularly if our continents rely on the opportunities with this technology to do things differently. And that's why for us it's extremely important that when we talk about capacity, when we talk about compute, that we don't see this as just an opportunity to include countries like Nigeria. It is important for the whole world that countries like Nigeria should be included. Absolutely important, because if we don't empower these countries to contribute to the development of AI, we will still come back 10, 15 years from now and still struggle with inclusion and the data set that we're using to train these technologies and the ability of nations to put it to good use. So what we're doing in Nigeria is prioritizing the fact that we cannot outsource the leadership of AI. So leaders in the country will need to catch up with the reality of these technologies. That's the first thing. And we're extremely lucky. When we designed our national AI strategy, we used an AI model to actually find Nigerians working at the forefront of AI all over the world. And of course, you can imagine how many of these people we were able to find. So we brought about 100 of them back to Nigeria. They built the foundation of what is today our national AI strategy. And with the support of Pierre Omidia, the founder of eBay, we've actually now set up what we call the Nigeria AI Collective, which is a community of practice that is bringing together everyone working in AI to help implement our strategy. But their goal is also to ensure that AI is developing in Nigeria with proper consideration for safety and ethics. So this is the other thing we're doing. But on top of that, we've started talking to a few people on how do we ensure that we have access to the infrastructure we need. So on one hand, we've started a process of collecting the data set to build our large language model. We've also started digitizing our national archive, particularly the handwritten stock of our national archive. And we're now kicking off a new conversation to say, how can Nigeria set up a national AI trust? And the goal of the trust will be to ensure that this trust that will be made up of respectable people in our society can help manage the development of AI. So not just government, that respectable people can actually help manage it in society. But also, perhaps we can find a new business model through which we can monetize a large language model. We keep it open, but we can also get people to donate to the trust. And whatever the trust is able to raise from the development of AI will then still go into developing the technology further in the country. Because we know that we can't rely on just donations to continue to push the frontier of AI. And we do not have enough resources at the minute to do that. But we must look for ways to keep pushing it.
Bosun, that's excellent. Doreen, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to give you a chance to respond or amplify on any points. But I do want to ask you one thing. If you listen to the group that we've just heard and some of the comments, remarkably enthusiastic, open, and excited. I must tell you, in some of the discussions I've had with our friends across the Global South, there is a perspective in some countries that, in fact, the U.S. government or other activities and actors seek to limit certain kinds of capabilities and engagements. And so there is, in a sense, a narrative battle that's underway about who is the best kind of partner. What's your perspective on that going forward?
I think in the end, we need, as previous speakers were mentioning, we need to be inclusive. We need to gather all partners. That, I think, is the beauty of our AI for Good platform that we started back in 2017, pre-generative AI. And using that platform, we have been able to demonstrate specific solutions to help achieve the SDGs. Saturday, we had our digital day together, Akeem and I, and we were able to show the world how we can build a safe, inclusive, responsible, affordable digital future for all, and that we can do that together. I think partnerships are absolutely fundamental. Josephine, the standards piece is absolutely fundamental. That's where the ITU invests a lot of time and energy focused on AI standards. We have our first Global AI Standards Summit coming up in October. We have some great work with IEC, with ISO, looking at deepfakes and multimedia authentication. We have some great work with Akeem on skilling. We just launched an AI Skills Coalition. We have our AI Hub for Sustainable Development that we also have together. And so it's through those efforts and really through partnership that I think we can help change the narrative. I think we want a positive narrative, as Akeem also mentioned. The world needs hope today, and we need to be able to demonstrate how we can use technologies to help the most vulnerable, to help those that don't have access to education, those that don't have access to employment, those that are struggling due to climate, and I believe that we can do that leveraging AI.
Great. Mauricio, a little bit, perhaps add to the conversation about skilling. That's one of your main responsibilities in Colombia. How do you think about it? Do you have the necessary resources? If you need new resources, where do they come from?
Yes, skilling is, as you mentioned, is one of our main priorities now, reskilling, upskilling, and even give the opportunity to everyone to know at least what is AI and use AI for the good of the society, especially for the the poor people. In Colombia, we're trying to educate through skilling, different boot camps, projects, teaching coding in public schools, and working with different platforms to educate our population. Not just to consume technology, because that's one of the main paradigms we want to break out. We don't want to become or continue to be a consumer of technology. That's nowadays especially in Latin America. We would like to become a producers on technology. On becoming a producers on technology in which we can work together, we need more open resources, fundamental model, large language model that do it in different languages, not just English. We need large language model in Spanish. We need gathering data for the model, not just from Europe and United States. We need open the guide of the data in America Latina, in Africa, and so on in other parts of the world. And we need, like you have here in the United States, most of the best of the educated people in AI. It's not a luck that the best companies in AI are here in the United States, but it's not coincidence. But we need this knowledge to be shared around, especially in America Latina. How can we bring these open resources, bring this knowledge to our countries? And that's the effort we are doing now. We're investing, $400 million now, just from my ministry this year, in educating people in many ways. As I told you, boot camps, teaching in schools, 10 and 11th grade, technically in Python, and so on. So educating people is a way to democratize AI, and we have to do that all together. We are open and happy to work with all of you.
Thanks, Mauricio. We'll just take a couple more questions. We're getting the time mark. Akeem, let me ask you. You are at sort of the ground zero of some of these narrative struggles and struggles to define how to think about this going forward. What's your perspective? You see it swirling, big powers, big companies. How do you balance that at USDP?
I was thinking how I could fit in one of my thoughts, and you've just given me the perfect question. So let me pick up on that, because I think you're touching on something extremely important, both from the unique nature of the moment in time and the technology we're living with, because this is not another technology revolution like the Industrial Revolution or the arrival of computing or even renewable energy, because it is actually, in a sense, something that's occurring simultaneously across the globe. I mean, listening to Bosun, who I listened to a few years ago, I was just telling him, extraordinary story of somebody who was ahead of many others in creating the kind of incubation ecosystem in Nigeria that allowed now truly highly successful startups to emerge. I think one of the things that we are perhaps not reading correctly is that AI is a little bit like a currency. And if the world is going to trade on this currency, it cannot be owned by some or one. And we also need to understand that most people don't want to just be takers. They want to be movers and shakers. They don't only want to be users, they want to be architects. They don't only want to be seen as consumers, they want to be producers in this digital AI economy of the future. And I think this is where the Digital Global Compact, this appreciation that inclusiveness and equity and investing, as this initiative is doing, in the capacity of others to quickly become co-equal players, is to the benefit of all. And the Secretary General once spoke to the General Assembly a few years ago and said, if our world turns into a G2 world, to use one analogy, with 2 internets and 2 different currency systems and so on, we will all be worse off. I think this is going to be the test of our time, and perhaps we are on the verge of discovering something extraordinary is possible.
Extraordinarily well put. Josephine, I want to ask you, we'll have just 2 last questions, and then we'll call it a day. Josephine, Singapore is a leader, also a leader in ASEAN. ASEAN as an institution has a few countries that are surging forward, and a number of countries that are really quite a ways from making the leap. How do you balance that as a country that is dynamic on the cutting edge, but also as part of a grouping that is still struggling a little bit?
Well, ASEAN has a population of 650 million people. I think we count ourselves as being blessed in the sense that relative to other regions in the world, we are peaceful and there is a lot of appetite for growth. And in spite of the difficulties that all the governments face, there is certainly a lot of energy and enthusiasm of the population to try and take advantage of technology to grow as much as possible. So I think there is something common that we can work together on. Now, in spite of the differences, we have come together to try and say that we will put together a digital economy framework agreement. Already ahead of many other regions, we have a data management framework that unites us. Nate will know this very well. In cybersecurity, we were the first and still the only region in the world that subscribes to the 11 norms of responsible state behavior in cybersecurity. So I would say that these are positive factors to work on. And I think that if enterprises are thinking of an avenue for channeling their products and services as well as their innovation capacity, Southeast Asia is certainly an area that gives a lot of promise and a potential that they should be seriously devoting resources to.
I very much agree with that. Bosun, I will say, if I had to choose an evangelist for technology in the Global South, it would probably be you. If you open the dictionary, there's a picture of you there. I do want to ask you a question, though. As we go out and we try to educate and talk to people, we've heard a remarkable number of hopes and dreams expressed here today. You must have some conversations with people that are anxious about what it might do to livelihoods, worries about technology that they don't understand. How do you deal with that? How are you working with the people of Nigeria to educate them about the positives associated with these technological initiatives?
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. I think the first thing we've done, which is quite unique to Nigeria, is to cater for the public in our national AI strategy. So there's a part of that is quite strong on not just your traditional education, but bringing the media into the process for crafting our national AI strategy. And I don't think it's unique to Nigeria. I think all over the world, people still don't have clarity on what this set of technologies that we're talking about will be able to do for them. So I think we need to ensure that the media should be able to speak to it appropriately, because they're the first point of contact between those that are building and the general public. So that's one thing we've done. The other thing we're doing on a larger scale, which again is a lot more intentional than even the media side, is digital skills and literacy. We've been able to separate the two. We see that for our economy to become really sophisticated, we must ensure that a significant number of our people are digitally literate. And whatever we do as government around governance ethics can only build on the understanding of this technology by the ordinary people on the street, because they're the first point of contact in terms of usage. So they have to be able to decipher what is good for them, what is bad for them, and that will come from literacy. Then on the skill side is that we can't appropriate this technology if we don't have the ability to build it locally. And most of the time we look at AI models that are already built, but the beauty of artificial intelligence is in actually being able to collect data and tweak things to serve your own reality and purpose locally. So that's why at the minute we're running what we consider the largest talent accelerator program in the world, where we're training 3 million technical talent. We have fantastic support from the likes of Microsoft, Google, I think AWS is part of it as well, and a very long list of organizations that have given us world-class content that we're deploying to ensure that we can accelerate the development of the workforce that we need both locally, but also ensure that Nigeria can become a net exporter of technology talent.
Colleagues, this has been a remarkable panel. You've really enlightened all of us. Could I ask the audience to give them a warm round of thank you, please? Thank you all so much for coming. I want to thank my colleagues at the State Department for all they did to put this together. This is a remarkable event, incredible progress on something that is so important to all of us. Thank you all for taking the time out of a busy UN week to join us today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for the invitation.